You've probably heard it called the miracle tree, maybe the drumstick tree, or even the horseradish tree. For centuries, this one plant has been a cornerstone of traditional medicine. But how much of that is actually true? Is it really a miracle or just a really healthy plant? That's what we're going to dig into.
So yeah, that's the big question, right? Can a single plant really live up to a name like miracle? We're going to break down the claims, look at what the science actually says, and figure out what it all means for you. Okay, so let's get formal for a second. The plant we're talking about is Moringa oleifera, and its history goes way, way back. We're talking ancient practices where every part of it, the leaves, the seeds, even the bark, was used for all sorts of things. And it's this long history that has planted the seed for all these modern miracle claims.
And look, let's be super clear here. There is some serious substance behind the hype. I mean, just look at this breakdown. You've got more vitamin C than what you'd find in an orange, more potassium than a banana, a ton of iron, calcium, the list goes on. Plus, it's low in fat and has zero harmful cholesterol. So right off the bat, we know this is a genuinely healthy plant. Okay, so it's packed with nutrients. We've established that. But the claims? Oh, they go way, way beyond just being a healthy green. So let's start with some of the more, everyday wellness claims.
All right, first up is one you've probably seen in the beauty aisle. The idea that moringa is amazing for your skin and your hair. Some people even claim it can help wounds heal faster.
And you know what? There is some science that seems to point in this direction. Lab studies have suggested that moringa can speed up wound healing, probably because its antioxidants help produce something called oxidative stress in our cells. Sounds promising, right?
Okay, but here's our first big reality check. And this is a really important one. These promising findings, they weren't from studies on people. They were done in a lab. That's a huge distinction, and I want you to just kind of keep that in the back of your mind as we keep going.
Let's move on to the next one. This is another huge claim you hear all the time, that moringa is a powerful anti-inflammatory. The theory is it could help with things like edema, which is basically swelling that happens when fluid gets trapped in your body's tissues. And again, we find a study that seems to support this. In 2022, scientists applied moringa seed oil to mice that had ear edema, and sure enough, the inflammation went down. And what's super interesting here is you're probably starting to see a pattern, right? We have a positive result, but once again, it's in an animal study, not on people.
But what about studies on people? Are there any? Well, yes. Let's look at the claim that moringa can help lower high blood pressure. This is where things get a little more interesting.
So back in 2021, a study took two groups of healthy people. One group ate cooked moringa leaves, the other didn't, and the result was pretty clear. 2 hours later, the folks who ate the moringa actually had lower blood pressure. So this is a big deal. It's our first real piece of human evidence, and on the surface, it looks pretty solid.
But, and you knew there was a but coming, even with this promising human study, the scientists who ran it were really careful to add a major disclaimer. They basically said, hey, this is cool, but we need way more human trials to be sure. So, our best piece of evidence so far still comes with a giant asterisk.
So where are we at? Well, the claims don't just stop with general wellness. Not even close. In fact, they get a lot bolder, moving into the territory of fighting some really serious diseases. And this might be the biggest claim of all, that moringa could actually play a role in preventing and even treating cancer.
So the science behind this claim centers on a compound in moringa called niacinamide. The research suggests this specific compound can stop cancer cells from developing. And get this, some studies have even suggested that moringa extracts could kill off cancer cells, in a lab of course, for things like breast, liver, and colorectal cancers.
And the claims don't stop there. What about heart health? Could this one plant also protect our entire cardiovascular system? The theory here is pretty compelling. See, moringa is loaded with powerful antioxidants, like quercetin, and it has these anti-inflammatory agents that we know are good for the heart. And so the idea is that it could help lower cholesterol and maybe even prevent that nasty buildup of lipids that leads to heart disease.
Okay, let's just recap for a second. We're talking about potential benefits for skin care, inflammation, blood pressure, cancer, heart disease. It all sounds, well, incredible. And that brings us to what is probably the single most important question of this entire explainer. What's the one thing you absolutely have to know about all of this research?
All right, this is it. This is the moment where we have to separate the promise from the actual proof, because this one piece of context, it really changes the whole picture.
And wow, this chart right here basically tells the entire story in one picture. Take a look. When you break down all the research into Moringa's health benefits, a staggering amount, like 95% of it, comes from lab studies or animal trials. And that little sliver left over? That's the research from actual, large-scale human trials.
And that right there is the key takeaway. What works in a petri dish or in a mouse, well, it doesn't always work the same way in a person. It's just not a guarantee. So while all these findings are really exciting, they are not, I repeat, not confirmed proof that Moringa does these things in people.
Okay, so what on earth are you supposed to do with all this information? If you're still curious about trying Moringa, how do you do it safely? Let's get practical.
I've got 4 simple rules for you to follow. Number 1, and this is non-negotiable, talk to your doctor first. Number 2, be extra cautious if you're already taking medications, especially for things like thyroid issues, diabetes, or blood pressure, because there could be interactions. Third, and this is a big one for all supplements, remember they aren't regulated by the FDA for quality or purity. And that leads us to number 4. If you do decide to buy it, please choose a source you trust. Do your homework on the brand.
So, after all that, we're back where we started. Is Moringa some kind of future super medicine, just waiting for the human trials to prove it? Or is it a genuinely super nutritious plant whose incredible potential has just been a little overhyped based on very early science? The truth, at least based on the science we have today, is probably somewhere right in the middle.